So you played through some of the lost sectors in Nikke, and you got your hands on this cool new toy called the Harmony Cube. But which ones are good and which units to place them on? In this volume of my detailed series of guides called Cummander Bootcamp, I'm going to be explaining the mechanics of Harmony Cubes in detail and rank them on a tier list of sorts. It'll give you a good idea of which cubes are the best to invest in when you're in the early to mid stages of the game. Without further ado, let's jump in. So first off, let's establish what Harmony Cubes do and how I will be ranking them. So the first time you complete each Lost Sector level, you will unlock the cubes themselves, but some of them will give you batteries needed to level up a cube instead. The only other ways to obtain more batteries at the moment is getting the currency to buy them from Union raids as well as solo raids, meaning there is a select amount of upgrades you can make every month. So it's generally more worthwhile to prioritize the batteries to level the cubes that are more impactful for anyone's account. Harmony Cubes can be placed on a unit's inventory like an additional piece of gear. They will buff that unit in a specific way. When you level one up enough, the primary effects of the cube will be better. You can place the cube on more units, and they will get an additional buff that increases the damage they deal as the strong element. So if we go by the elements chart, if an electric code unit equips this, then they will deal a bit more damage to water code enemies. Generally speaking, because almost all the cubes give offensive buffs, you should only put cubes on units that are expected to do damage. So leave your leader, Senti, Novel alone, since giving them a cube will hardly change anything. So let's go over how I will be ranking them. This really isn't a tier list for which cubes are better than others, but rather a list of priorities that I think a lot of players progressing through the mid to late game will appreciate to help them narrow down which cubes are likely to be of use. I'm going to be ranking them on 4 tiers. The highest is Best in Slot, or cubes that undeniably perform well on select units and carries the biggest improvements versus the other cubes. The tier below that we have Situational, where the cube can be placed on certain units that can still improve their overall damage, but not for everyone. The rank below we have Better Than Nothing. Pretty self-explanatory. Generally speaking, all the cubes are strictly buffs, so it's rare for a cube to actually harm a unit, though there are cases where it happens. Use them as a placeholder for your lower priority Nikkes, or until your other cubes are leveled up so they can be placed on more people. And the last rank we have PvP. Again, there's a cube in the game currently that's in a weird spot, is that it's still considered an improvement in PvP, but generally not used elsewhere. Let's start by discussing the cubes in detail. There's currently 7 in the game, though it's possible more will arrive on the way. We'll go in order of how they're unlocked. The first one is the Assault Cube. This will increase the hit rate of your units. It just refers to accuracy. I don't know why the game calls it hit rates, but there you go. Accuracy affects the spread of a unit's bullets, most notable ones being shotguns and SMG users. I would recommend putting this on shotgun users since I don't know any good SMG users that are good DPSs, so even if you could make them more accurate, it doesn't matter. I put this in the Better Than Nothing tier. Compared to the effects of the other options, the Assault Cube's effect is not that apparent. The best case scenario is that you put this on your Guilty, Drake, or Summer Annies, and they will be able to hit the weak spots or cores of enemies more frequently, which in turn increases your DPS. Because of the stingy battery economy, this cube gets the lower rung of the ladder when it comes to which ones to prioritize, but feel free to stick this onto your shotgun users as a slight stat stick. Next one is the Onslaught Cube. It gives increased charge damage. I put this one in Better Than Nothing as well. The main problem is that due to how damage is calculated in this game, this cube scales charge damage additively. It does not consider any other charge damage buffs and multiply with them. It's a fairly small bonus that can be used to increase certain sniper or rocket launcher users' damage, but it's generally a minuscule amount, which is why I don't think it's a priority to level. Though it doesn't hurt to stick this on someone like Maxwell or Snow White for a little extra bit of power until something better comes along. This is the big one. The Resilience Cube is the third one that you will unlock. This easily goes into Best in Slot tier. I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, but this cube is literally good on anyone. Since reload speed is typically not found on overload gear, it's quite rare to have this type of buff, other than some select units like Pravati. The increased reload speed is a surefire way to increase any DPS's numbers. Most cube guides online will tell you that this should be the cube that gets the most amount of investment in the early game, as the usefulness carries over to the late game as well. Though there is another contender that's coming up. This cube, in my opinion, should be the first one you put batteries into. When you get your earnings from your first couple union rates, level this one as high as you can, but I would personally stop at level 5 or 7, as the costs increase by a lot after that. 7 is the golden number to go for, as the reload time reaches its max efficiency at nearly 30%. In the early game, put this on your heaviest hitters and there will be an improvement overall. This is the de facto most versatile and universally used cube in the game at the moment, so anyone will benefit a lot from leveling this. Coming in close, we have the Bastion Cube. This one I will also give the best in slot ranking. However, a major caveat between this and the Resilience is that the Bastion Cube only starts to shine when you approach the late game. What it does is that it refunds you ammo for every 10 shots fired. This can have a maximum refund of 3 shots per 10 bullets at level 7 and beyond, which is also the reason why this is regarded as the second best cube to level in the game. When placed on the right units, the ammo refund effect is even more impactful than the Resilience Cube's reload speed. Primarily, this gets placed on Modernia and Scarlet. Because of how much damage they do, any max ammo overload gear attributes combined with the Bastion Cube makes them into absolute powerhouses. Since their main drawback is a long reload time, being able to fire off their high damaging bullets for as long as possible before having to reload is basically how you build them meta-wise. So Scarlet starts with 20 ammo by default. This cube, when at level 7, will effectively increase that to 26. But if you got max ammo overload gear, increasing the max size to 50 and above, yeah, it gets pretty crazy. If you haven't gotten far enough into the game to unlock overload gear yet, I would stick to leveling the Resilience Cube, but always just keep this in the back of your mind when you eventually approach the late game and start thinking about min-maxing. This should be the cube that gets the second priority for bringing up to level 7. One last thing I want to talk about is that the Bastion Cube can actually harm some units, so I will be careful not to stick this onto anyone just yet. Any units with abilities that trigger when firing the last bullet do not want this cube. Refunding ammo means emptying out your magazine slower, which in turn means triggering those effects less frequently. So think twice before putting this on Dorothy or Pepper. Next, we have the Adjutant Cube that increases the charge speed of your unit. This one gets placed into situational tier, as there are select Nikkes that benefit from this. While you can put this on any sniper or rocket launcher DPSs, the top contenders to put this on are Snow White and Alice. From that extra bit of charge speed, Snow White can get a bit more flexibility when it comes to team comps, as she can charge up the giant laser beam up to a staggering 1000%. From the increased charge speed, you can squeeze in some extra damage, as you're likely to make it a full charge in time before certain support characters' buffs wear off. For Alice, increasing charge speed even by a little bit makes it so that she can fire off her shots quicker, which judging by her insane numbers makes the buff quite potent. However, I'm putting this cube in situational as both these units require a high amount of investment to work, primarily only starting to shine when approaching the late game. But any unit that can use cubes that are not Resilience or Bastion are good, as it can free up those slots for anyone else. Another good recent unit to put this on is A2, as she is one of the few rocket launcher DPSs in the game, though she is a limited collab character, so it's unlikely she gets a rerun if you happen to miss the collab event. Next, we have the Wingman Cube. This will increase a unit's total ammo capacity. I'll also place this one in situational. It's a decent buff that a lot of DPS units will appreciate, but this is essentially the leftovers after the Resilience and Bastion cubes are taken already. And the reason is that the extra mag size does not get multiplied with any other max ammo buffs. It only accounts for the base mag size of the unit and adds on top of it. You can use this on almost anyone, mostly for shotgun users. However, just like the Bastion Cube, I will warn that you should never put this on a unit with any last bullet fired effects, as increasing one's mag size means they empty their clips slower, which in turn triggers their abilities less frequently. So for the second time, leave your Dorothy and Pepper alone. Finally, the newest entry to be added to the game is the Relic Quantum Cube. This one is unique in the sense that the buff it gives is not apparently offensive. Increased burst generation sounds good on paper, but the actual effectiveness it gives is almost irrelevant. Because this has nothing to do with doing damage, sure, you might be able to activate your burst a tad quicker, it's really not significant enough to compete with the other options. However, it's not a net negative, as at least it's a definite improvement versus if you didn't have it. This cube is mainly used in PvP, as whoever bursts first wins is basically PvP mode in a nutshell. And since you have no agency in the arena, getting to full burst even by some milliseconds quicker can mean the difference between victory or defeat. However, I don't focus on PvP, and something inconvenient is that you can't select loadouts for your Nikkes. So if you want to use a unit for PvP and then use them for campaign content, then you will have to manually swap the cubes every time you do this. However, this cube does represent an interesting way the game is taking with Harmony cubes, as I wouldn't mind seeing more of them with supportive abilities. For the time being, I will stick this on Senti or Jackal, as they're top performers in PvP, and the burst generation in other content is at least better than nothing. But I would not prioritize leveling this at all. And there we have it, all 7 of the current Harmony cubes ranked and explained. I hope you were able to find some of the information useful, as investigating this topic led me to some interesting discussions. In the next volume of the Bootcamp, I will be explaining the 160 wall and how to approach the gacha mechanics in detail and plan optimally for your desired units. As always, thanks for watching. If you want to see more Nikke content just like this one, you know what to do. And of course, always remember, have fun with the game.